Veganism, a controversial topic dividing families and lovers, may even be employers and employees. Veganism. Hello and welcome. This is English Podcast with Paul. English Podcast with Paul. Yes. So if you have some headphones, put them on. If you're going to be doing your chores and being busy around the house, crank up the volume. If you're in the car, please concentrate on the road. And listen to my beautiful, soft, luxurious voice as we discuss aspects of veganism. Okay, so preface. What is veganism? So for those who don't already know, it's when somebody chooses not to partake of animal products or often food, generally is the first port, and then moving on more seriously to other parts of your life, such as shampoos or leather belts and leather shoes, things like this. So that is generally the premise of veganism. Okay, right. Why veganism? Well, again, that's an interesting part. Many people are wondering why, because health is always come up in conversation, and scientists are always doing new studies about health. One thing that is really major and been in the headlines recently is the World Health Organization has grouped processed meats in the same grouping as carcinogenic and tobacco products. So that's what the World Health Organization has done. As you know, World Health Organization is advisory board for health and wellness. Obviously, you can take everything with a pinch of salt, or you can take it verbatim, as it's said. So what are the points? What are the aspects? So that's the first one. That's the main one. The World Health Organization has stated that it's now been put in the same category as carcinogenic processed meats. And that generally is implied about red meats. Okay. So what have we got here? We've got countless studies are linking poor health to diet choices. So we all know that if you eat lots and lots of junk food and you don't exercise and you maintain that lifestyle and habit for many, many years, it can really have a detrimental effect to your lifespan and to your health and your happiness due to your health, I guess. Right, so that's another part. Then there's the climate activists or anveligists. So many people have also used studies to show that cutting down more forests, deforestation, to aid farmers to have more cattle in many parts of the world is really having a devastating effect on CO2, and then not just the deforestation, but then you've got the cattle and the methane gases caused by such huge amounts of cattle that would never normally happen in the wild should, if there was a group, for example, of like, I don't know, buffalo, that kind of thing. So there's that. Also, dairy farming and dairy milk. The milk is one of the most poisonous things to the water source. So milk and fecal slurry from the cows really have a detrimental aspect to aquatic life. So there's often regulations that are being policed by the governments to ensure that these pollutants, shall we say, from farms, specifically dairy farms, are kept at bay and monitored. So that's another part. Animal rights. There's another aspect, animal rights. So I don't want to go into this too deeply, but it depends where I want to go. Right, so let's go back to the beginning. So first of all, rights were given to black people. Rights were given to women. Rights was given to disabled people. Rights were given to animals. So the whole aspect of giving rights to a group of beings is because we understand the tyranny and the pain caused by not having rights, the oppression. Now, you could say all groups were oppressed and some groups are worth more than other groups, and it all depends whether you deserve to be seen as a viable life. So that's an interesting debate in itself, and we could argue that for a long time, because you could argue that even children have rights. So even children have rights. As an example, you could argue that children will one day benefit society, and you could argue that women benefit society, and that disabled people benefit society. But there comes a line and a point where you say, well, maybe they don't benefit society. For example, if you've got profound multiple learning disabilities, and so you may not be benefiting society, but you still have the right to have a life and to have all the benefits that everybody else has, should you be able to access them, or being given help to access all those benefits of life. So the reason people have these rights is, like I said, the fact that we can feel fear and pain. So a person with learning disabilities can still understand fear and pain. A child can understand fear and pain. And animals, more to the point, can understand fear and pain. That's why we have animal rights for dogs and cats and horses. So basically, if it's a pretty animal, it has rights. Dogs, cats, horses, maybe bunny rabbits and guinea pigs, other kind of nice animals. But if it's not such a nice animal, even if it's more intelligent, such as a pig, it doesn't have the same rights. If you harm a dog, for example, and it is and there's evidence to prove such a thing from the vet or video footage or whatever, then you can be prosecuted. But the same isn't to be said for cattle or other animals that are put into the food chain. So, for example of this, many chickens have their beaks burnt off from an early age. And I'm not talking about small little tiny farms or small tiny little homesteads. I'm talking about big mass farming. So the beaks are burnt off at an early age to stop them from pecking and biting and anything they shouldn't be doing. So that is obviously painful. That's just literally done without anesthetic. That's literally just burnt off and broken off very, very quickly at a young age. Again, it's still painful and still not nice. Male chicks, on the other hand, are often either gassed or just chucked straight into a meat grinder. Living male chicks just bunched into this meat grinder. And there's proof and evidence of this on YouTube if you look for it. So it doesn't matter who you are. You can't say that is nice or humane or fair for this living being just to be chucked into the meat grinder whilst it's still alive, you know, and awake and conscious. Anyway, so also animals often are not treated very well in the meat industry or the food industry, because they are just seen as a product. They are a product, and the person has to be as efficient as possible. There's pressures on the person. Now, don't get me wrong, human beings are moldable, but human beings are just generally do what they're told to do. You know, if you have to get all this cattle through a gate, then you have to get the cattle through the gate, and you're pressured into doing so. Otherwise, the consequences are on you. So everybody that's working is just generally working for money to feed their family. And this creature, for example, maybe, what's the word? Maybe putting that at risk. So the human being trying to get the job done without getting in trouble themselves or slowing things down or costing the owners more money is only done because they're a human. And often we do things that we are seen as okay by other human beings. So I think that that's not ideal and that's not a good excuse to hurt an animal, but I can see why that happens. Okay, so animal rights, that's a really big topic. I mean, you could say the same for a tail on a dog, getting a dog's tail docked, where they like put a band around it, elastic band, and it falls off over time. That wouldn't happen in the wild. I think if it doesn't happen in nature on its own, then we shouldn't really be messing with it. But that's another story for another day. So animals have rights. That's where we are right now, animal rights. Okay, next we got 3D printing meats. So now you can get a machine and it can print meat. I don't know what the ingredients are into this paste, into this gel that is able to come out of a printer. Also, we have meats grown in a laboratory. So, I mean, is that still vegan? Is it not vegan? I really don't know. You're growing it from cells of an original animal, and no more animals are being hurt, unless you have to get lots more cells. And whether those cells are easy to obtain from an animal without hurting them, I don't know. I don't know the process. But I don't know whether that's vegan or not, because it's still biological ingredients. Interesting debate there. Okay, and then also you've got the other end, the far end of the spectrum. Now, I saw an article with my student, and it was a violin, 100% vegan. So you can already buy violin strings, which were famously made out of cat guts, and the bow, which used to be made out of horse hair, apparently. The actual glue wasn't vegan to make the body. So now you can buy a full violin and bow and strings that's 100% vegan. I think that's pretty amazing. Obviously, shoes are a lot of shoes are made that are vegan now. Canvas shoes, even Converse shoes, even some Dr. Martens shoes are vegan. Obviously not all of them, but some of them. Belts, handbags, many things. And another article I read said about a hospital in Lebanon. They now 100% vegan meals in their hospital. So they obviously believe that food is very important into the health and the well-being of people, and so that's what they've chosen to be, 100% vegan with their diet and with their food that they're offering the patients. Now, there could be, excuse me, there could be an argument said for the medication, and that's another argument altogether, whether their medication is 100% vegan, because a lot of medication does have animal proteins in them or animal fats. I'm not a scientist, I really don't know. And some of these, maybe most of these medications have been tested on animals, but that's a whole other story. But big companies in the UK, such as Superdrug, none of their animals are none of their products are tested on animals. So that's another step forward, like Superdrug. So sometimes you don't even think about it. Like your shampoo, can have animal products in it. It is really bizarre. Once I bought a brush, and I thought it was just hair from a manufacturer on this brush because it said boar hair. And it wasn't until a few days later my wife said, "No, you do know boar is a pig, right? And that is pig hair." I was like, "No, you're joking, no." She said, "Yeah, that's the spelling of boar the pig, not a brand name of something called boar." So I inadvertently bought a brush that was from pig hair. Now, I don't know exactly how they get this hair. I do know because I've been into a laboratory, a slaughterhouse when I was a teenager. And I know that the paddles, the pig gets stunned, and then it gets hooked up, and it comes down into a big boiling bath of water to burn off most of the hairs. And then it obviously gets scorched and a little bit cooked with a flame to burn off the remaining hairs. So I don't know how other companies get boar hair exactly. But that's not a very nice process to think about, you know, in your image, in your mind. So yeah, hospitals, boar hair, shampoos, all these kind of things are wrapped up in veganism. But then moving on to the next part, we have things like Burger King and McDonald's are getting into plant-based meats. So I think Burger King were one of the first to bring out a plant-based chicken burger, and they brought out a few other parts, a few other pieces, and now, like I said, McDonald's. Some McDonald's, I think more so in America, put their fries in fat. I think I don't know if it's duck fat or beef fat to make them more tasty. But the UK fries literally have 3 ingredients: potato, salt, and vegetable oil. So in the UK, it's a little bit different. Lots and lots of different companies now. Beyond Meat burgers, even and lots of other big names are getting behind dairy. Sorry, dairy. Goodness me, listen to me. Meat-free, plant-based versions. And one of my favorite, to be honest, is Richmond sausages. Now, you could say it's been a long time since I've tasted meat, so I wouldn't know. But these vegan sausages taste impeccable, amazing. Richmond sausages. Oh, absolutely amazing. I don't think I could tell the difference if somebody switched it with me. I really don't know. They are not bad like gristle and horrible like old sausages, old cheap sausages used to be. But yeah, Richmond sausage is one of my favorite. So lots and lots of companies are in on the act now. You know, they see there's a market for it. They can see there's money in it, in plant-based alternatives for meat. Lots and lots now. So in Cambodia, as you probably heard before, when I lived there, it was a bit more difficult. You could buy some of these things in small cities, in small cities like Siem Reap. And Phnom Penh. You can buy like Linda McCartney sausages, and you can buy some other corn sausages and corn burgers, and a few top names like, I don't know, I think it was like Bird's Eye, things like this, like fishless fish fingers, things like that. But they were expensive because they had to be shipped in from Australia. So it was available. But I tend to make my diet much more basic. I had a lot more lentils and chickpeas and things like this, and tofu, because that was cheap and easy to get in the local markets. So as I said, even in Cambodia, you can get meat-free alternatives. And Cambodia is a very poor country. Like I said, lots and lots of people getting in on the act now. Lots and lots of stuff being sold. It's almost impossible not to be able to find something like that. We even go to towns here, seasides, and get alternative ice creams. Not much dearer, maybe a couple of pence dearer, sometimes the same price. And that really puts a smile on my face. It's so nice to be able to go to the beach and having an ice cream. That's really nice. Okay, then moving on, then we have things like celebrity status. You know, with Instagram, you know, this celebrity, that celebrity, wanting to garner some more people in their audience and bolster their audience about a bit bigger. Talking about veganism and how they support this brand or that brand, or they love plant-based and it's really good for their health and body. And more often than not, it's better for their audience numbers, pumps up the numbers. But there you go. If it's putting it out there to more people, then good. It's putting it out there to more people. More people have an informed decision, and they know what's available. Okay, athletes. Well, actually, I'm not talking about athletes, but going back, many intelligent people such as Einstein and Isaac Newton were vegetarians. And even going back to the days of Socrates, these people in the Greek philosophers and Roman philosophers were vegetarians. And so going back to athletes, many athletes, even Linford Christie and a few other big famous athletes went vegetarian in and around times of competing, because it helps things go through their digestive system a lot quicker. If you eat a lot of red meat, it can really stay in your bowels for many hours and really slow you down and make you feel lethargic. So I'm very aware, I don't know all of them, but I'm very aware many athletes go to a vegetarian diet when they're competing. And even now there are many vegan athletes that are getting really good results and their bodies reacting very well to a meat-free diet because of all the issues and problems that meat can cause. That's another story. Okay, right. Now, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't play devil's advocate and look at the other side of the coin. So the first part of being devil's advocate would be freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. I was not a non-smoker. Sorry. I was not a smoker when the smoking ban came into force in the UK. I was already a non-smoker. But I smoked as a young lad from 15 years old all the way up to nearly 30 years old. So 15 years I smoked. And so I was not I was not a smoker at the time of the smoking ban in the UK. But I really felt bad that many people had it inflicted on them, that you can no longer smoke here, you can't smoke there, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I think that was a real push on people's liberties, that you cannot smoke. And now the laws recently, a few years ago, said you can't even smoke in your car if you have children in the back. So I understand the reason for that. I understand that people would say it's not fair for the children to have that passive smoking. But it's still a human, it's still a right to be able to smoke in your own car and choose how you want to bring your children up. That's another interesting debate, I suppose. Smoking. Right, so where were we? Freedom of choice. Talking of smoking, you can't even smoke in an employer's vehicle. So whether you're driving a lorry, you're legally not allowed to smoke in there. So I see it sometimes, but there we go. So choice, the freedom of choice. Many places are becoming plant-based or offering lots and lots of options. And so freedom of choice and meat-free Mondays is still, freedom of choice is still available for those that do and those that don't. But if you don't want it, it seems to be all around you at the moment. It's all around you. It's in adverts. It's on Instagram, and I see some parallels happening now in regards to smoking. But I'll get on to that in a moment. And then another 2 points for devil's advocate. I'm giving you ammunition on a plate here for those meat eaters. Brain development. So many people would say, well, why has our brain not developed or changed since the time of caveman and we came out from the forest, the same as our chimpanzee cousins? You know, they said there's 99.9% similarity. And what is the change that makes us different? You know, apart from our brains getting bigger and us developing or using vocal cords, some might say it was to do with cooked meats. Now, again, I'm not a scientist and I don't know for sure, but that is an interesting point. And the third and final point, what was the third and final point? Teeth. Well, actually, teeth are, no, that's not a good point, because teeth are for chewing. You know, you may say we have a little bit of canine here, but you can't rip a cow's backside off with that. So that doesn't help. No, I think meat is the only, meat being cooked back when we were caveman. But even still, 90,000 years ago, I think we started eating cooked meat. And way before that, so if for 90,000 years we've been eating cooked meat, we've been Homo sapiens for nine or 10 times more. And you know how evolution goes, how we still have a tailbone at the top of our bottom, where that used to be a tail as we were monkeys. That has only changed slowly over tens of thousands and thousands of years. So our digestive system in this short space of time, 90,000 years, compared to the length of time that we've been without fire, is a dramatic difference. Our intestines have not changed in that small slither of time from receiving fire to the whatever 100,000 years before that. Or no, I think it was more than that, like 400,000 or 500,000 years. So it's only a tiny bit of time we've been having fire. Right, okay. I don't want to go off too much off topic, but yeah, freedom of choice and brain development. That's the 2 points for meat eaters to throw back at me, okay? I'm giving you this ammunition to throw back at me so you can bring it up in the comments, so you can discuss it, and I'm happy to discuss it as adults. I look forward to your comments, and that opens up a conversation between adults, and I look forward to that. All right, so summary. Parallels, I believe parallels between smoking and the tobacco industries. Smoking and tobacco industries of the past, you know, with this misinformation and the biases with the studies. There was a lot of studies in the past from tobacco companies. Really didn't help people make good decisions. So I think some of that is happening now, and many people do not really do not want to believe that meat is bad for your body. But there's so many scientific studies and evidence to prove that it is. The number one clue is on your hand, is that thumb, that opposable thumb. That is not for doorknobs, that is for picking fruit. That's why we and monkeys are able to pick fruit, and our eyes are able to pick out many more colors than any other animal. And again, that is to pick out fruit. Hence why women tend to be much better in general at choosing colors and color coordination, because as humans we have developed a very good eye for ripe and fresh fruits. Obviously that was very important back in the day of caveman time when we were hunting and gathering. So yeah, the opposable thumb, that's the whole point for picking fruit. We primarily are fruit eaters. That's it, full stop, nothing else. Okay, so I said I see some similarities and some parallels with the smoking and tobacco industries of the 70s, 80s and 90s and issues there. So I feel for people on both sides. Okay, so that's the parallel. Next, right, what is the next pandemic? So we've just had a really big pandemic, and it was really scary, all right? People died, people lost jobs, people lost their homes. The pandemic was really bad. And we're slowly getting over it, and we're slowly learning from it. We don't know exactly what happened, how, where, or why. There's only rumors. And I don't want to speculate on those rumors without any more evidence. But we do know in the past we've had SARS virus. We've had, what else do we have? We had swine flu. We've had foot and mouth disease, BSE, bovine spongiflora osteopathy, BSE, which was mad cow disease. And in the UK, we as a nation, and the what was it called? The regulation for farmers, MAF, I think it's called, Ministry of Farms and Fisheries, were ordered to burn millions of cattle because of this mad cow disease that was spread from the foods in the cattle, and then going into crushed up dead cattle, put into the food, given back to the cattle, as far as I'm aware. So mad cow disease, which then transferred over into CJD, Clifford Jacob disease. I didn't pronounce that right, I'm really sorry. Something CJD, something Jacob disease. And that was the human equivalent of mad cow disease. So that is now a recognized, what's the word? I want to say derogatory. It's not derogatory. Degenerative disease of the brain. And so that come from cows. So BSE, swine flu, bird flu, other avian flu, foot and mouth disease. So I'm not saying all, but there seems to be a lot of bad practices with dead animals and disease and passing it on to other animals. Especially with birds, it's very difficult when they can fly from one crop to another or from one farm to another. It is possible as well to have food have diseases in it and pass that on to other farms, especially in the feed where it goes from one farm on the wheels or in the machinery to the next farm when a lorry goes from one to another. So that's another issue. Okay. So the question is, how long should we avoid this science? How long should we avoid the idea that eating animals is not really a clever idea? I mean, you just imagine if you said to a child, like an 8-year-old child, we've got this chicken here, we know you like this chicken, but we're going to chop the head off this chicken now so we can eat it on Sunday. I know many people can say that's just normal, that's just nature, that's the part of life, but really, the idea of chopping something's head off with blood and the child screaming and the chicken like, oh, awful image. How that scars a child's mind because it's an awful thing to do. Ugh. Killing another creature just so you can eat food when there's thousands and thousands of other choices of foods to eat. It's not necessary. Maybe there was a time for it. Maybe you live in Iceland and all you can eat is whale meat and seal meat, but then you're living in Iceland. But in the West, in the 21st century now, there's no need for killing animals. That's my opinion. So that's my opinion. That's the summary. That's where I stand. I wasn't going to tell you all that, but I'm sorry. I went a bit too far. I'm sorry. Oh, right. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and this happens to be my soapbox. Okay, so you're entitled to your opinion. Please leave your comments below. I'm happy to open up a conversation of adults and listen to other aspects and let other views and other points. I'm really open to that and look forward to that. Okay, so that's it. If you want any more free resources, if you want to go to the website, which is again English Podcast with Paul, or even to secondclasshobos.com to see what my wife and I are up to, then feel free. Also, there's a Facebook page if you want to like and follow that. Again, EnglishPodcastWithPaul.com, English Podcast with Paul. It's all out there on the socials. Okay, stay safe. Enjoy English, have fun, keep listening, keep involving, keep speaking, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye for now.